Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls Radio. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my most beloved co-hosts. I got two of them now. I feel so blessed. PK is back with us. Patricia Kirkman, thank you so much for coming back and being on the show with us tonight. And we also have George Lugo with us. And our guest tonight is an amazing woman. We are going to be talking about cats and cat magic and oracles and many other things. And her name is Deborah Blake. So first and foremost, we're going to start off with PK and numerology. PK, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. My voice sounds a little strange, folks, but just it's the way it is for a while. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm better, thank you. And we're taking a look at the numbers today. It is a day of wrapping up old things, which is really good. And we are in a month that has been taking everything has been about details of things, and it's been a lot of work for everybody to put things in order. But was taking a look at a question that was asked about repeating numbers, when we see repeating numbers or duplicate numbers. And I find that many times when that happens, if you take a look at what your destiny number is or what your personal number is at this point in time, that says a lot about what's happening around you. Because if you look at numbers itself, everything revolves around the numbers 1 through 9. And 1 is starts and beginnings, 2 is partnerships, 3 is creativity, 4 work, 5 changes, 6 family, 7 spiritual, 8 about our money, and 9 about what we do for others. So when we're seeing duplicate numbers show up in our life, take a look at what the numbers represent. And I'll try to put something together so people can take a look at it on the web page. But most important is it isn't just the number you see. It's how many of that same number do you see, and what does that number total? Because the end number may have a lot more to say than the actual number itself. So it makes it very interesting. We're never really quite sure. Some people are very prone to specific numbers that they keep seeing. Well, if someone sees the number 4 all the time, and they'll see 3 or 4 4s going. Well, 4 deals with work-related issues, but 3 4s mean that it's all about being creative with your work and putting it together. So it isn't just a negative number when we think of what each number has in store. And is that a number that's missing within our own chart? And does it have a special meaning to us? Because maybe there's an abundance of that number showing up, giving us more ideas of how to do things better. Just a thought, just something to look at.
That's great. It's very interesting. Yeah, I've had quite a few people talk about that, about they continue to see either the same numbers over and over again, or numbers that really catch their attention. They just don't know why they're popping up. So that would be great. And again, your website is patriciakirkman.com, and you can also contact PK from the supernaturalgirls.com website, have your own private reading with Patricia. And, yeah, there's so much going on in the world today. It's great to know your own numbers and what's coming up for you. And the time of endings, you said, new beginnings, we like that. But anyways.
Also for us to remember that between October 1st and December 31st, we're leaving the old year, getting ready to go into the new year. So we're in a little bridge period that we get a chance to review, redo, or head for the hills. It's going to be 1 of the 3, okay?
Okay. Oh, I hope we don't have to head for the hills.
Yep. I'm afraid I have been heading for the hills quite a bit of lately. But
yeah,
we've got to
really.
see.
I know it. Oh, goodness, with all the health challenges you've had. Well, we're so grateful to have you with us tonight, that's for sure. I also wanted to announce the candle reading workshop, Shamanic Divination and Diagnostic Techniques, for anybody who's going to be in the Western Mass area. It's going to take place on Saturday, November 16th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's going to be held at Azure Green, or Blossom Center is another name for it, in their pyramid, and the cost is $80. So if you're interested in signing up, time is running out. Make sure you get a hold of me. I am found on supernaturalgirls.com. Also on our Facebook page, you can message me there. And there is an announcement about this workshop, and we'd love to have you there if you're interested. And Itzhak is a wonderful teacher and shaman, and I think everybody is going to have a great day with him. So make sure you get a hold of me if that's something you're interested in. And we have our candles on sale. So as we go into candle magic time with Halloween, make sure you've got your candles for love and money and soul realignment. They're all on sale on our website. And we've got great paranormal stories on our Facebook page. As usual, we've got UFO stories and demons being photographed in old haunted houses. So lots of stuff to look at and read. That's on our Facebook page. Make sure you like and follow us there, and on Twitter. And if you would like a psychic medium reading, then George Lugo is your man. You can find George at crystalgatereadings.com. Again, that's crystalgatereadings.com. And he's with us tonight, and we are going to be talking about a wonderful topic, cat magic. And our expert tonight is Deborah Blake. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Deborah before we bring her on the air, because she's an award-winning author, which you should know that. She's an amazing author. She's written a lot of books. She's the author of the Baba Yaga and Broken Rider paranormal romance series and the Veiled Magic urban fantasies from Berkeley. She's also written A Year and a Day of Everyday Witchcraft, The Goddess is in the Details, Everyday Witchcraft, and what we're going to be talking about tonight, among other things, the Little Book of Cat Magic. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure having you here, and we all love animals. Our audience loves animals. We love animals. This is such a precious topic to be discussing. Now, how many cats do you have? Let's start there.
Well, as of this week, okay, well, for many years I had 5, and I lost all but one of those, including Magick, Cat Queen of the Universe, who was featured in the Little Book of Cat Magic and many of my other books. And I adopted 3 cats to go with my one guy who was left from the old bunch. And so I've been at 4 for like a year and a half, and the young ones are about 2 years old, still kittens bouncing off the walls. And then, because I'm completely insane, about 3 months ago, I took in a stray mother cat and her 4 kittens to foster for a local organization, and the three of the 4 kittens found homes. Mama cat is back at the shelter, and Diana, who is one of the kittens, is now living here. So I guess the answer is 5. I'm back to 5. That was apparently the destiny. Yeah, it's been an interesting few months.
That's what's perfect for you.
Well, I have had 5 on and off, but mostly 5 for most of my adult life. So, apparently that's my number, 5. 5 is good. 6 is crazy. 5 is only slightly crazy.
Oh, and George, you have cats too. How many do you have?
Yeah, I have 4 right now, and I'm holding at 4. I mean, I've always been a dog person.
No, you need another one. 5 is good. 5 is good. Go for 5.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, God, that's real. It's been close a couple of times, but
you have a
4
dog too?
No.
Do you have
I
a
don't
dog?
have any dogs anymore. No more. No dogs.
Oh.
No,
well, then you definitely need a 5th cat. Definitely need a fifth cat.
Yeah. Oh boy, you're talking me into
I
it.
have a spell in the book on how to find just the right cat. I can help you.
Well, I'll tell you what. These cats found me, man. I'm not kidding. They just showed up, and I'm like, okay, well, come on in. So
yeah, no, that does happen a lot. And in fact, I had not been intending to keep any of the foster kittens, and Diana made it very clear that she decided I was hers. The other kittens were wonderful, and I fell madly in love with them, but none of them was attached to me the way she was attached to me. Now, mind you, she got seriously ill. They all got sick, but she got really, really sick. And I nursed her back to health, and I fed her by hand. And there's this Chinese saying, I think it is, that if you save somebody's life, then you're responsible for them forever. And apparently Diana believes that.
Got you. She knows exactly.
She's
how
like,
to get
tag,
started.
you're it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, I got this one little Japanese short-tailed cat that talks to me all the time. She's the only one that's just constantly talking. What's that? And she's like, okay.
Well, clearly, she has something to say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's just great having them. They're just really wonderful. They're such strong individuals.
Oh, it's amazing. I've had cats my whole entire life, and not one has been like another. I mean, there are some that have things in common, but every single one of them is a discrete individual. And, and I've had siblings. I've had a mom and her two kids, and they're nothing like each other. It's just amazing to me. They really are, and this is true of dogs too. I mean, I like dogs. I'm a cat person, but I like dogs. But they are all their own person. Just like every human being is different. Every cat and every dog I have ever met is completely and totally an individual, for the lack of a better word, person in their own right.
Right.
Some of them more charming than others, just like people.
Right.
For sure.
So how did you get into and onto the path of witchcraft? How did that start with you? Was that something that you had in your family?
No, absolutely not.
No.
I was brought up Jewish. I am still what I consider to be Jewish by heritage. I'm very proud of my Jewish heritage, but the religion itself did not really do anything for me. And when I became a teenager, we shifted to Unitarianism, and that wasn't quite right. As an adult, I studied Buddhism and Taoism, and it was close but not quite right. And I guess you could say, an agnostic. I thought there was sort of the possibility of something out there, but I hadn't found it yet. And when I was in my early 30s, I think it was my early 30s, it all starts to blur together, I had a friend who said, I have this group that meets at my house, and she kept inviting me to do these things, and I'm not a group kind of person. I'm a sit in the corner with your cats kind of person. And one Halloween, or Samhain as we call it, she said to me, come to my house. I've got a few people coming over. We're going to do a ritual. We're going to have a little food. It'll be great. So I went over. Her idea of a few people was, 25 or 30. And they were all, coming up and hugging me and saying things like, Merry Meet and Blessed Be, and I just thought, oh my God, who the heck are these people? And we had our feast, and we went out into the park near her house, and she cast the circle, and something changed. Something in that circle was different from anything that I had ever felt before, and I reached out to deity, and deity reached back. And that had never happened before. And literally, it was like I could hear these voices in my head that said, well, it's about time. And, it's all history from there. That was pretty much, I found my place. And I went to a friend of mine a couple of weeks later and said, oh, my God, I'm a witch. And she said, yeah, I know. And I was, what do you mean you know? And she said, yeah, I've known for a couple of years. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And she said, because you had to find your way to it yourself. And, I have told many people that since then. It's the interesting thing about modern witchcraft and paganism is that it isn't something where witches go out and look for new witches. There's no proselytizing. It's not like the folks who knock on your door and go, "Come join us." You actually have to find your way there yourself. And yes, people can invite you, like my friend invited me. And the tradition is you're invited 3 times, and if you don't go the 3rd time, they stop inviting you. But it is one of those things where you're either sort of called to it or not, and some people don't find it through a group like I did. Some people, the goddess just comes to them, taps them on the shoulder when they're in the woods, and goes, "Psst, hey there." But yeah, that was how it happened for me, and then I was in her group for a little over 5 years, and then did my sort of traditional year and a day of study to be a high priestess. Started Blue Moon Circle, which is my group, in 2004, and we've been practicing together ever since.
Gosh,
How often do you
wonderful.
get together?
Well, once in a blue moon. That's actually how we got our name, because when we started, there were only 3 of us, and if one person canceled, the other 2 sort of went, well, So we really did only get together once in a blue moon. These days, we mostly meet for the 8 holidays of the year, the Sabbats, Samhain being the next one, and we try and get together for the full moons when we can. That doesn't always happen. It's, like I said, we've been together for a very long time, and there were years when we got together 2 or 3 times a month. And at this point, we have one person who can't drive at night, which makes the full moons a little difficult. Then we're all sort of crazy busy, but we're, at this point, the core group, which was 4 or 5 people, we're like family. I mean, we take vacations together. I, married one of the women in my group and her husband, and was there when their children were born. So, if we miss a full moon here and there, it sort of doesn't matter.
Gosh, what
so
a
how do the
close-knit
cats affect
group.
you? How do all these little kitties
Mostly
affect
they
you?
make me work really hard to write books so I can feed them.
And
you meant magically. Well, the interesting thing about my cats and Magick, none of the cats that I have now are familiars that I can tell. The younger ones, I'm still sort of waiting to see if something happens. Magick the cat, Queen of the Universe, that was her full title, and she wanted you to use it, who I lost, it'll be 2 years in January. She was the one true familiar I ever had. She would, if I was doing magical work on my own, she would come out. But the amazing thing was when the circle met, if we were inside, my cats don't go outside, so if we were outside, that she would just be waiting for us to come in and give her treats. But when we met in my living room, which is it's up, I live in upstate New York, so there's numerous months during the year where you cannot be outside for things. Either it's snowing or it's raining or the mosquitoes are trying to eat you alive. And she would we would set up the altar table in the middle of the room, which is a round table I use, set everything up, and she would walk into the room. She would walk clockwise around the table, which is the proper way, and greet everyone. And then she would either sit underneath the altar table or on my couch sort of behind us supervising us, and we knew that it was time to start the ritual. And when we were done, she would go back around the circle and walk out of the room, and we knew we were done. She was incredibly magical, and she did inspire a lot of my books, most especially the little book of Cat Magic. And there are, in this book, there are little notes from Magick the cat, because she had a lot to say.
Oh, that's adorable. Well,
she was, of course, black. I mean, that probably goes without saying, but she was a black Magic cat.
how old did she live to be?
She and her brother Mystic, who I had, and I also actually had their mom Minerva, who I lost the year before I lost them, or a year and a half. Magic died 7 days before their 16th birthday, and Mystic died the day after their 16th birthday.
Oh, nice.
8 days apart. It was a very bad month. A very, very bad month.
Horrible.
But yeah, so she was almost 16, which is a very good life for a cat, and she did it all on her terms, as she did everything else. She and her brother both had cancer, but very different kinds of cancer, and she had one that had, not to bring everybody down, but basically it was like a cluster of grapes, and each grape was a tumor. And we found out about it because one of them burst and almost killed her, and my vet said, well, the next one that goes, that's it. And she defied all the odds because she was Magic, the cat queen of the universe. She probably should have had a couple of weeks. She got 3 months. I think we discovered it in October. Yeah, I know, because we had our Samhain ritual, and we thought, well, this is the last ritual with Magic. And I run an artist cooperative shop, and so my Decembers are very crazy. And I asked her to make it through December and through that week after December so I could have that week with her in quiet. And she did. Every time she jumped down off the sofa, I held my breath. She made it until the 3rd of January, and then she basically said, nope, I'm in pain, I'm uncomfortable, take me to the vet.
Oh.
And even at the end, she was in charge. I've never had another cat who said, this is it, I'm done. But, yeah, she was the boss of me. She was the boss of me for 16 years. From the day I met her, I went to the shelter to find a kitten. Well, we all know how that works, right? And I ended up coming home with her and her brother and their mother, who was basically, unadoptable. She was terrified and sickly and had probably been abused. But I was looking at her brother, this big gray cat. They were about, I think 8 weeks old at that point, and she muscled her way up to the front of the cage and said, mew, 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 which clearly translated to, you can take any of my siblings you want, but I'm going with you. And that was the beginning of her bossing me around for the next 16 years.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Well, I mean, obviously your bonds with your cats are just incredibly deep. But yet you did mention something that I want to go back to. Not all cats are familiars.
Absolutely not. I've had cats my whole life, and it is possible that before I was aware I was a witch, I had cats that were familiars and I didn't realize it. But certainly, I've been practicing since, for a long time. We're not going to say how long. A long time, and this was the only familiar. I've had a couple of cats who I do energy healing work as well, and one of the cats that I have now will help with that. She will jump up on the person who's being worked on and sit on the spot that's problematic, which Magic did too. But familiars are not that common, and one of the things that I talk about in the little book of Cat Magic is, there's a spell for finding a familiar, and there's things like that. But I also try and stress that you should never get a cat because you want a familiar. I mean, if you're lucky, you will get a cat, and that cat will turn out to be magical. But you better not adopt that cat unless you want the cat, no matter what, because there's no guarantee.
Mm-hmm. When you use the term familiar, because not everybody's going to understand, why do you say whether they're a familiar or not?
Well, this is one of those sort of old terms. A familiar essentially is an animal, and it doesn't have to be a cat. I've known people who have dogs, snakes, in the old days they used to say that witches had familiars that were frogs. I'm not sure how helpful a frog would be, but okay, sure. I mean, I have frogs in my pond, and I go out and talk to them all the time, but magically, not so much. No, they just eat flies, which is lovely. A familiar is an animal that helps to focus and boost your power, usually in a fairly subtle way, sort of like, the story I told about Magick coming and helping us cast the circle. She clearly was attuned to the magical work that I did and that the group did, and she was very much a part of the magic that we did, but it wasn't as though she was, drawing esoteric symbols in the air with her paw. It's subtler than that. It has to do, yeah, I know, that would be cool. I'd like to get one that did that. Well, maybe not. That would feel a little creepy. But the thing about a familiar is it's all about energy, as most of magic is, and most of paranormal anything is. It's about sort of tapping into the available energy. And the thing about familiars is that they help you to do that, whether they're helping you to tap into their energy or they're helping you to tap into the sort of universal energy. Nobody really knows. As with all the rest of magical things, everybody has theories. I have theories, many theories. But yeah, the role that a familiar plays is to help a witch or magical worker to sort of ramp things up a little bit. But it's all pretty subtle. It's not like they're going to press a button.
Right. And in the old days, didn't they also refer to familiars as entities, animals that would be protective of the witch? So if somebody's throwing a curse at a witch, that the familiar would help with that?
Right. I think that's probably true. I mean, I think my cats, all of them are protective of me, whether they're magical or not. And I don't just mean the mice or the fact that they always see the wasp in the room before I do, and I have to chase them to get away from it. I think the animals that love us are generally protective. And certainly if you have a familiar who has this additional gift, then certainly they are going to use that to protect their person. Certainly, Magick the cat's energy was extremely protective. She actually slept by my head for literally the entire 16 years. She slept by my head, and I'm one of those people. I don't sleep well, and I have because I'm a sensitive. You get nightmares, you get all those things, and I always felt much safer when she was right there by my head, until first thing in the morning when she would start batting at me to get up and feed her. And I felt less safe and more alarm clocky.
So that's funny. Well, again, you have so much great history also in your book. You talk about the cats in Egypt, and it's so interesting how cats evolved as pets. But you talk about Bast, the Egyptian deity, and tell us more about some of these cat deities, because they were very powerful, and they still are.
They were. Bast is particularly the best known. Those of us who are witchy folks, and especially witchy and cat folks, almost everybody has a statue of Bast, or a statue that represents Bast, which is usually cat-shaped. But there are a few more, most of whom are not quite as well known. There's a pre-Inca civilization where there was a cat god in that. Freya, who is not normally known as a cat goddess per se, but she had a chariot that was drawn by these two magical cats, giant cats, of course, because if you're going to draw a chariot, you have to be a giant cat. And so she was associated with cats. And Sekhmet, who was also Egyptian, she's more often pictured as associated with lions, who are a big cat, obviously. She was sort of the fiercer version of Bast. Bast was more of a mother goddess, a healing goddess, whereas Sekhmet was more of a I will kick your ass kind of cat goddess. Well, she was known as a fierce defender or an ally. So if you wanted someone, say you were a woman who was being abused by a man, you wouldn't call on Bast. You would call on Sekhmet to basically smack him upside the head.
And you have spells also listed in your book that people can use to find out which deity is best for them to work with, and everybody's different.
Yeah, because
like
you
said.
don't always know, and it's and it can change from day to day and week to week. You may be in one situation where a particular deity is the right one to call on, and then there's a different situation, and sometimes you sort of sit there and go, well, who should I ask for help? So, yeah, there's a spell for asking, in particular for one of these cat gods or goddesses to, come and help you. I've sort of sprinkled the book with spells. One of my favorite sections of the book is less magical and more practical. You will find if you look at my books, they're mostly about practical magic because that's sort of my thing. I'm not a big ceremonial, esoteric, magical person. I mean, those are great, and if that's what you're called to, that's great. For me, it's more like, well, I have to make it through the day, the week, the month. I need help with the practical things. So most of my spells are relatively practical. In the Living with Cats chapter, there's a spell for a tranquil household, and a spell to integrate a new cat, a spell to find a lost cat or the perfect cat sitter. It's pretty pragmatic stuff, despite the fact that you're mixing magic with it. Because the truth is, if you look back at the magic users that we all sort of draw our history from, these were not people, for the most part, the common folks weren't doing ceremonial magic. They were doing magic so that their family got fed, so that they were safe, so that somebody who was sick was healed. So that's the kind of magic I do.
What area that you show what items are poisonous or problematic to the familiars, and certain things I had not thought about before that they could be a problem to the cat.
Yeah, I did a lot of research for this book, which is kind of funny because many of my books are not research heavy. A lot of them are just sort of my this is how I do it kind of books. This book required a lot of research, and I actually learned some things that I didn't know, as I was researching the book. I mean, I know a lot about cats and I know a lot about magic, but there were things that, especially, you talked about some of the historical things and some of the mythology things. I love myths and folklore. I mean, my fiction books, I've got a whole series based on the Baba Yaga, who is just this fascinating, mythological Roman cool witch, really. But yeah, when I was, researching the history and researching the myths and the folklore, it was so much fun.
Well, the term the bass cat. How do you pronounce that? Bast. I wonder because that cat, I read that it kind of hovers around mothers and babies and takes care of them and that kind of thing. I wonder if the term bassinet came from that cat. Because
I did not look that up. Damn it! I
have a funny feeling it comes from.
I don't know. Look it up and let me know. My mother was a librarian, so I'm all about the research and the looking things up.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of unusual.
That's an interesting thought. I have no idea. I mean, it's probably got some sort of weird Latin root that has nothing to do with that.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's a curious question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because as I'm going through it, the idea of the thought about the bobcat, since here in Arizona, of course, the bobcats are quite prevalent. We see a lot of them walking through the yard and what have you at different times. And I never thought about the fact of they're making peace in the solidarity of having them around. So I had to laugh when the last line is it's associated with being patient and aware of what's coming up. And that's really true because you're in awe when you see them, especially when they have their little ones with them. It's fabulous to watch how they.
Yeah, apparently there are a few like in this area. I've never seen one. I mean, they're way up in the hills. We do have mountain lions, not many, because we've been encroaching on their habitat. I did one winter. I walked out my door, and there was a set of cat footprints in the snow that were way too big to be a cat. And I looked at them, and I went, wow, mountain lion, so cool. And, was really glad that my cats don't go outside. And I had a friend who did see one in her backyard. So mountain lions are our sort of local wild cat. But you don't see them very often. We see bears more than we see cats.
Where are you located?
Upstate New York. I am, I'm in Oneonta. Well, I'm actually outside of Oneonta. I'm about a half an hour from Cooperstown, if people know where Cooperstown is, sort of at the foot of the Catskills. Catskills, yeah. No wonder I ended up here. So, yeah, it is definitely upstate New York, and where I live is very rural. So, I have deer strolling down my driveway and that sort of thing. But, yeah, unfortunately, we've encroached on their habitat so much that even though the mountain lions originated here, there are not as many of them as there used to be.
Yeah.
We've taken on
everywhere. Yep.
Yeah. I was watching something like National Geographic, and they were doing a thing on cats. And they said, after all the cats are gone in the world, the only one that will survive is the bobcat. Because they're the smartest, the fastest, the most cunning, rip your face off kind of cat. And
they're small, which means they don't need as much food to survive. But they're, and I love their little tufty ears. They're so cute.
And I get the big out of watching them walk. It's almost like
and fast.
Yeah, they are very cool. I love all the wild cats, and one of the things that I love about cats is they are not very far removed from their wild ancestors. They may have decided on their own to come and live at the fire, and be fed, but if you watch the behavior of any so-called domesticated cat, they are very wild. I mean, some of them are wilder than ever, and if you see feral cats, of course, feral cats really are wild cats. But, I live in the country, so every once in a while a mouse will wander into the house not having gotten the memo about the multiple cats. Usually they stay in the walls or in the basement where the cats don't go. But, you can see from their behavior that they have that hunter instinct. They have the play with their food instinct, which is not charming, but there you have it. They really are only thinly domesticated. They are as domesticated as they have decided to be. And, my cats, I don't let them outside, both to keep them safe and because they can be pretty brutal to the local, bird population. But it's because they are natural hunters. That is, their instincts are right on the surface, which is I think one of the things that makes them so magical is it's a way for human beings, and in my particular case, witchy human beings, to connect with the wildness that isn't all that far from any of us. We also have sort of chosen domestication, but I think if you deny that element of instinct in yourself, then you also deny yourself some of the things that come with that instinct, and cats can help you get back in touch with that.
Absolutely. I think we have so much to learn from animals in general, and
Definitely.
I saw a quote from a Native American leader who once said, "Every animal knows more than you do," and that's true, I believe.
Oh, that is so true.
Yes,
and,
it is.
And usually we'll, show you that. With no subtlety whatsoever.
Right. I mean, I will tell you that here where we live is also very rural, and there was a mountain lion right out in front, and I didn't realize it was there. My husband thought it was very funny to tell me there was a lost cat in the yard.
Oh, no.
So, yeah,
and is
thought
he
that
still
was
alive?
Barely.
The cat is.
He was inside on the second floor. He goes, "Hey, go look around in front. There's a cat that's lost." And I was like, "Oh, no, of course, I go
I
running
would have
out
done the same thing.
Yeah, to see if I could rescue this lost cat. And it's a mountain lion. And I'll tell you what, it was a really magnificent experience because it didn't attack me, thank God. But what it was doing, it was tracking something. And I got to see close up what a mountain lion looks like when it's tracking and how focused that mountain lion was. I mean, there was
I'm so
I was
jealous.
standing there. He didn't care. He was interested in what he was focused on only. And it was just a great experience. A magnificent animal, huge. And of course they say we don't have them here, but they're lying because
they say we don't
here.
have them here either, and yet I had those footprints literally outside my front door. Which would have fit in the palm of my hand. I mean, this was not any kind of domestic cat. This thing was as big as my hand, and it padded through the yard, up to the door, back out through the yard, and as I said, my friend who's 5 minutes from my house has seen one in her yard, they are magnificent, and I wish we could do more to get them back their territory. Not that I'm moving, but somebody else should give them back their territory.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and again, we have so much to learn from them. And I could see also one other thing I noticed is this is also that kind of focus that they have that's so intense. That's also what can make them so dangerous, because once they have their eye on you, then that's it. And you can understand.
But that is something you can see in the domestic cat as well. When they are focused on something, it is very difficult to distract them. Whether that's food or prey or a toy. I've had a lot of fun with my now 2-year-old kittens. Watching them play is really fascinating. I have my Koshka, who's my big fluffy black guy. He's probably part Maine Coon cat or Norwegian forest cat, and he, for the first, I'm going to say 6 or 8 months I had him, he would play fetch. He finally got tired of it and he stopped doing it. But I have this sort of long toy with strings hanging off of it that one of the artists at my shop makes, and I would throw it for him. He would pick it up, bring it back in his mouth, plop it down, and he could do that for 20 minutes. He would just be so focused on bringing it back and forth and bringing it back and forth. And, of course, it's only after a little while that you realize that they've trained you to throw it for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like,
That's right.
which one of us is being trained here?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to take a very short commercial break, and we're going to come back and talk more about cat magic, mysticism, and oracles. And you also have a tarot deck, so we have a lot to talk about, Deborah. And everybody stay tuned. You are listening to Supernatural Girls Radio. We'll be right back.
Pure essential oils, specialized minerals, and a revolutionary anti-aging technology. Astridian combines the best of all scientifically proven ingredients in easy-to-use creams, lotions, and concentrated serums. Astridian's advanced line of products take your skin to a new level of being healthy and beautiful. we offer a variety of collections that address all your skin concerns. The Essential Anti-Aging Series treats and moisturizes your skin for a long-lasting, younger look. The Multivitamin Series promotes healthy skin with high-quality vitamins and minerals. The Sports Series restores skin from cellular damage and stress. Astridian also offers a revitalizing solution for hair and a professional series for doctors and medical spas. Visit astridian.love today and begin your new journey to healthy, beautiful, youthful skin. Astridian, beyond your expectations.
There are a lot of psychics out there. How do you decide which one is right for you? You look for someone who empowers you, who's practical and spiritually connected, who says, here are your opportunities, here are your challenges, and here's a way to deal with them, and then gives you your own toolbox to make your life everything you want it to be. Hi, I'm Corby Mitleid, and that's how I work with you. As a certified professional tarot reader, I've helped thousands of people for over 40 years through my toolbox. Cards, past life retrieval, numerology, spirit guide conferences, and mediumship. Whether it's career, relationships, finances, or your spiritual road, together we can replace your confusion with clarity. And you'll probably find a little laughter along the way. Visit me at CorbyMitleid.com to find out how to cross your bridge from fear to fearlessness and fly. And tell me you found me at Supernatural Girls for a special gift with your reading. Corby Mitleid, the practical psychic for catching your tomorrows today. Find me at CorbyMitleid.com. That's CorbyMitleid.com.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With Cosmic Fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Are you frustrated with endless mantras, affirmations, and processes that promise to align your life with your dreams, only to find yourself years later in the same space where you began? Do you feel like you must be doing something wrong because nothing seems to be working? Don't you just wish that someone could shift your consciousness for you and your life could align with your desires without all the effort? Well, your wish is about to come true. Hi, I'm Carrie Cannon, and I have a gift that allows me to align the consciousness of others to be in harmony with their dreams. The best part is, it requires no particular effort on your part. Upon listening to a consciousness alignment, people have reported instant energy shifts, financial windfalls, soulmate connections, healed relationships, physical healings, and more. To gain access to a free trial offer for my entire Manifesting Miracles library of consciousness alignments, go to commandmiracles.com now for details. Again, that's commandmiracles.com for information about our free trial offer. That's commandmiracles.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girls Radio. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my co-host, PK, Patricia Kirkman, who you can find at patriciakirkman.com, and another co-host. We have George Lugo with us tonight, very famous psychic medium, and you can find George at crystalgatereadings.com. That is crystalgatereadings.com. And our fabulous guest tonight, we're having so much fun talking about cats and cat magic with our expert tonight, Deborah Blake. So, Deborah, tell us more about mysticism of cats, their deep, profound connection that they seem to have innately.
I know. That sounds really magical, doesn't it? It's just, well, witches and cats have been associated for as long as we know about, and I think it is because there is something about the cat that is sort of innately unknowable. If you've ever had a cat, you can look at them and you sort of think, well, what are they thinking? What are they plotting? And where did they get that thing that they put in my bed? There is, I love dogs. Dogs are wonderful. But most dogs are pretty simple and straightforward. They want to eat, they want to run, they want to play, they want you to love them. Cats are, I think, innately mystical, and I don't know why that is. It just is. It's the nature of the beast, as we would say. And there, some of them are more mystical than others. I've had cats who are pretty straightforward. Feed me now. But there is something about the cat that you really can never quite pin down. And I think that's why those of us who do magical work are so attracted to them. There is something that gives you the feeling that they are connected to something that is a little bit other, if that makes sense.
It's like the mystique of them and the look. It's almost as if they're there, but they're not there, and they're pulling you in all the time.
Yeah, like the cat that just came and sat on my lap, Angus. He's a pretty down to earth cat. There's not a lot mystical about him, but I have had cats who really have that sense that there is something going on that you're not going to be able to know or understand, and that's sort of what makes them kind of cool. I love that idea that you can't own a cat. You can own a dog. Cats pretty much will allow you to have them in your house and feed them if you're lucky, but they own you. That's the big difference. Cats pretty much choose you, and that is, I think, part of the magic of cats is that they are always their own person, regardless of and they may be very attached to you, and they may be dependent on you, but I dare you to try and make a cat do something it doesn't want to do. Dare ya. Double dare ya.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one time I was sitting at Bob Monroe's house down in Virginia, and he had several cats, and one of them came and sat in front of me on the table and just stared at me, and I looked at the cat, and he looked at me, and all of a sudden I was shown this amazing fluid geometry. that was
Cool.
way beyond anything I could understand. I barely got through math.
So the cat was a mathematician?
The cat was a master of geometry, and it was an amazing experience. I will never forget it. It happened many years ago, but it showed me that how little I knew and how much that cat knew. So I do have a feeling intuitively that every cat has some mastery of this type of thing. And, I mean, we're the ignorant ones, for sure.
That's so cool. Well, my cat Magick helps me write. She would sit, if I was sitting at my desktop, she would sit next to the keyboard and rest her head on the edge of the keyboard, which is less helpful than she thought it was. And if I was sitting in my living room working on my laptop, which is where I do most of my writing, she would usually sit behind me on the couch, and she supervised all of my writing. And, I have to believe that, in fact, she really inspired me, and it has been more difficult to write since she's been gone. I think she lent me a certain eloquence that perhaps, I don't quite have without her. I'm doing my best. But yeah, there was something about, she supervised everything I did. She supervised my magical work. She supervised my writing. She supervised my sleep. She supervised me in the kitchen. Even as a kitten, she would literally leap from the floor to my shoulder and insist on sitting on my shoulder as I cooked and, supervising whatever I was doing. And she wasn't after bits of food. I mean, she would eat them if you gave them to her. She just wanted to know what you were doing.
That's adorable. Oh, my goodness.
She was the boss of me. She really was.
Now,
I have a cat like that.
You have a cat like that?
Cats have inspired many things. I mean, if you look at, we talked a little bit about, you mentioned the tarot deck and the oracle deck. There are a lot of cats in those decks. There are a few dogs and a few other critters, but there are a lot of cats in both the tarot deck and the oracle deck because they pretty much inspire everything I do.
And so you feature them in those oracles and tarot cards. And tell us a little bit about those, because you created them and they're available.
Well,
for sale.
I and Elizabeth Elba, who's my illustrator, people always say, "Oh, did you do the pictures too?" And I say, "No, you don't want stick figure witches." I was very, I am talented in many ways. Painting is not one of them, alas. But I was very fortunate to work with a fabulous illustrator named Elizabeth Alba, who worked with me on both the Oracle deck, which was our first project together, and we had so much fun on that we sort of waited for the opportunity, and 2 years later came up with the Oracle deck to do together. But yeah, Llewellyn actually contacted me and said, "Do you want to do a tarot deck?" And initially, I was doing a lot of fiction work at that point, and I thought, "Oh, I'm awfully busy." And then I thought, "Oh, you idiot! They're offering you to have your own tarot deck. How cool is that? Shut up and say yes." So I did. But we had a great time with the tarot deck. What I did was, I've been professionally reading tarot for, at this point, probably 25 years. And I've used a sort of standard Rider-Waite tarot deck, which I love. It's great. But, I had some friends, like some of my Blue Moon Circle folks who are trying to learn tarot and said, I don't understand that deck. There's so much weird esoteric symbolism that I don't get. And so what we did was set out to take the basics of the Rider-Waite Tarot, which so many people are familiar with, and update it for, the Everyday Witch. It's called the Everyday Witch Tarot. And there are witches, but they're not necessarily like spooky witches. Some of them are, dancing or doing yoga or whatever. Because the truth is, the real witch, the witches like me, are just like everybody else, except we have a different spiritual path and, a different way of looking at the universe maybe. But we're just everyday people. And so, we I took the Rider-Waite deck and tried to make it more accessible. I mean, that's the big thing about all of my books. The Everyday Witch is sort of a theme of mine because it's all about making it accessible for the everyday witch, the everyday person. And there's lots of cats in them because, well, I like cats and they're magic.
Well, it just looks like so much fun, this particular deck. And now you did mention that you do tarot card readings for people, so I want to ask you, how can people get a hold of you if they want to book a reading?
Well, I don't do a ton of them these days because I'm extremely busy and important. No, mostly I'm just busy and tired. But first of all, if people are just looking to find more about me, I'm on Facebook as Deborah Blake and Twitter as Deborah Blake. I've got a huge imagination, as you can tell. And I have a Patreon, and so people can find me on my Patreon page. I also have a blog, which is Deborah Blake at blogspot.com, and I have a website, which is DeborahBlakeAuthor.com. Really, put in Deborah Blake on your Google thing, and it'll find me. I'm not hiding very hard. But people can just contact me. I get emails, I get messages through Facebook, all the time, and I do answer every single one of them. If somebody has a question about, one of my books, or if they heard me on a show like this and they have a question for me, I don't always have time for long detailed answers, but I do try and be accessible to people because, we're all seekers. We're all trying to learn. We're all trying to grow. And there were people who helped me along my path. And so I try and be there for the folks who are working along their path.
Oh, that's so generous. Well, I think that's great. And certainly people do want to be able to find you because I've gotten a lot of texts saying, how do we find Deborah? So now everybody knows how to find you.
Cool.
Yes. So that's great. Well, and also your tarot deck is available for sale as well as
all my stuff's available for sale.
Yes, all of your books. I want to ask you, what is one of the spookiest things that ever happened to you, either in witchcraft or with cat magic
or in regular life?
Because we are into spooky October here in Supernatural Girls.
Yeah, so. It is. I'm trying. I mean, I've always been a sensitive, and as I'm sure for sensitives, there are you get exposed to things that are not necessarily what everybody else gets exposed to, and I'm not sure about spooky. But I was actually doing a tarot reading for a woman who had come to see me a few times. She had lost her. She was an older woman, and she had lost her sister in a car accident, and she was really bereft and seeking. And I am not one of those witches who talks to dead people, for which, I might add, I am kind of grateful because things are difficult enough talking to real people. But live people, I mean dead people are real too. But in this particular instance, as I was doing this tarot reading, her sister came through because, I'm open and available when I'm doing tarot in a way that I'm not most of the rest of the time, and basically gave me a bunch of messages, which I passed along, and this woman sort of stared at me and went, "Oh my God, you sound just like my sister." And I said, "Sorry, I'm just the the conduit here." We had a couple of other sessions where she was particularly looking for that, and it worked out. But it was a little freaky for me because that is not normally what happens when I do a tarot reading, to have somebody come through. but it was, it was benign. It was not, there was nothing malicious or unpleasant about it. It was just a little unusual for me. And I've had that happen when I do energy healing once or twice. And it's, it's amazing and fascinating, sort of like looking at the mountain lion. But it's also so powerful that I do not envy the people who do that all the time.
Yeah, I think, it takes a special person like George.
It
like
does.
You, George.
To
do that. Yeah.
I can tell you something really fast. I had a woman that came to me who was missing her husband, and she was, he had been gone from probably about a year, and she's sitting across from me, and I keep telling her, I'm seeing all these roses, that he used to give you roses, right? And she says, yeah, he did. And right at that time, out of midair, a rose falls right on the table, right in front. Right
no
between
way!
Us. Boom! And it was the thing about the rose. It was almost like it was so cold. It was almost like when you put it in liquid. What do you call
Nitrogen.
it? Hydrogen.
Nitrogen.
Yeah. It almost had that kind of sense to it. It just kind of went boom right in front of us. And I said, well, look at there. And so she kept it. She bought a little glass box and put the rose in that. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Well, that's way cooler than anything that ever happened to me. I think we should just talk to George for the rest of this time.
No. But I've had a lot of things like that happen. Just very unusual things like that. It doesn't scare me. I just kind of, I'm never really shocked or surprised. It's just what they can do. I don't know. They just know how to bring things to us.
It is amazing. I have a friend who lost her husband, and it was a really long, drawn-out medical thing, and it was really difficult, and she was under tremendous stress for a year, and she wasn't sure after he passed if she really believed in life after death. And of course, I said to her, my experience is, yes, this is a thing. I can't tell you for sure, what to believe, but I can tell you based on my experience, this is the thing. And I would actually be talking to her or emailing to her, and I could see him standing over her shoulder when she was at the computer. I mean, it was as clear as day. And I had never met him. I had sort of a vague idea of what he looked like. But she had these really cool things happen where she kept finding pennies. He left her pennies under her pillow, places where pennies did not belong. And he was trying to send her messages, and I kept saying, you need to pay attention to this. And I guess this is the spookiest thing that's happened to somebody I know. The last gift he had given her was a ring with a couple little pearls in it, and she lost it somewhere in that last year. They were, most of the time she wasn't even home. They were at a hospital somewhere far away, and she was bereft having lost this last gift. And she went up to his office in their house, and he drank a lot of soda, and he had all these empty soda bottles, and there were 3 soda bottles in a triangle on the floor, lying there. In the middle of the triangle was the ring.
Oh my God!
Wow.
I know. And she told me that, and I said, I'm not surprised at all. I've been trying to tell you he's talking to you, and she's now quite the believer. I mean, it's been a couple of years, and there have been enough things that she has really come to understand that there's something else going on here. But it was, not everybody comes to that easily, and I understand it. I actually come from a family of very rational, prove it to me kind of people. Mind you, I'm sort of like the weird hippie freak in that family, but it was hard for me to come to witchcraft and to believe in things I couldn't see. That was not an easy journey for me. But there were enough things that I finally went, yeah, okay.
And how about your family, Deborah, about this? Because you were raised Jewish, as you said. I was too.
Yep.
So I know what that's like.
And really nobody else much believes much of anything. But they're really great, actually. They're very accepting of my faith and of my path. I think they all think I'm a little crazy, but they always thought I was a little crazy. The witchcraft didn't change that or add to that in any way. I'm sort of like the fairy changeling in a family full of type A yuppie overachievers.
Okay.
I'm the artsy one. I'm the but they're all pretty supportive, and they think it's fabulous that I have all these books. My parents actually both write, and my sisters have sort of dabbled. So that's like a cool thing, and thankfully they don't get it. I mean, they don't. They think I'm definitely sort of odd, which I can't argue with, but they're not at all critical or there's no rejection of my beliefs. Then nobody agrees with me. I mean they definitely don't. Any of them follow the same path that I follow. In fact, for the most part, they don't really have any faith at all. But I am very fortunate in that, for the most part, family, friends, general community, I haven't had a lot of negative blowback. And I'm, obviously really out of the broom closet because I write all these books. And, I sell the books in my shop and I wear a pentacle at work. And every once in a while somebody will say to me, "Oh, well, these are your books. Does that mean you're a witch?" And I'll say, "Yeah." And I'll sort of wait and hold my breath and see if there's going to be anything. And, there have been one or two people who sort of looked at me funny. But for the most part, I have been very fortunate in that people are either accepting or skeptical, but not, they're not burning crosses on my lawn.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Well, you're not shooting fireballs at your family, so they're, it's cool.
No. So far, so good. Now, mind you, I have all these protective cats, so maybe.
That's right.
And I do actually do protective work around my property. I did my yearly thing a couple of weeks ago. I mix some herbs and some sea salt, and I bless it and consecrate it, and then I go around my property and around the house, and I ask for protection. So maybe that's it. I don't know. And I also think that our society as a whole, our society as a half has become more open-minded and accepting. And, certainly, Wicca and paganism is, they say, the fastest-growing spiritual path or religion, in the North. I think they say North America. So, there's a lot of us, and we're everywhere.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we had someone on the show a few weeks ago talking about La Santa Muerte and how popular this saint has become, even here in the United States. It's no longer just a Mexican thing.
Right.
It's kind of evolved to the place where people feel so disenfranchised that they have chosen her because she accepts everyone. So it's very interesting to see that, the rise of pagan religions, and it is more accepted than ever before. Thank goodness.
Well, my theory on the rise of paganism and witchcraft is, first of all, that people are looking for something, absolutely, and they were not finding it in whatever religion it was that they grew up with, whether that was a Christian religion or Judaism or whatever it was. And I think for those sort of traditional religions, for women especially, that male-centric religion was a little tricky. One of the things that I love about being a witch and a pagan is that there's a goddess. I worship the god too. It isn't for me. It's like everything in nature is male and female. It makes a lot of sense to me that deity will also have both those aspects, in the face that it shows to us. But I also think that we're trying to get back to nature. We're trying to reconnect to the natural world, before it goes completely fluey. That's the technical term, by the way. And so, I think for a lot of people, witchcraft and paganism simply makes sense in that it is so grounded in the earth.
So do you find that your cats, each one of them plays a role in your life, and you have company that come over, some of them do certain things, and some stay near you, some take off?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the cat that was sitting on me before, Angus, he's very timid, and he tends to hide. Most people who come to my house have never seen him. He's 14. He's lived here a long time. I got him when he was about 8 months old from the shelter, and it was actually sort of interesting because last night I have a friend who comes to visit me periodically, one of my artists who also is my cat sitter when I go away. And she's been here for a few days, and a friend of hers who I had never met before came to visit, this guy who is, like a carpenter, very down-to-earth, sort of hermity kind of person. And this cat, Angus, who never comes out for anybody he doesn't know, came and hung out around the dining room table, made nice to this guy, let him pet him. The cable guy came today, and this cat was just freaking out in the corner. So he told me something about this person that I had never met before. He said this guy's okay. That he's connected somehow to the universal energy in a way that I, the scaredy cat, identify and say, I'm okay with. Yeah, it was amazing. My friend and I just sort of looked at her friend and went, "What are you doing? What, are you like the cat whisperer? What the hell?" But and of course, every cat that I have has its own personality, and Magick the cat was sort of checked everybody out who came in the house, and most of them she'd sort of checked them out and then walked away. If there was anybody she really, truly didn't like, I never let them in the house again.
Wow. That's smart.
They're really good at that. Yep.
Yeah, no, she was truly the guardian of the household and very discerning. I mean, she mostly just sort of ignored you unless she liked you, in which case, you would be allowed to pet her. But if, on the rare occasions where there was somebody she really, gave that hairy eyeball to, nope, I took her word for it, and they didn't come back.
Well,
Animals
that's great.
Have a sense of people, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they.
I think
that.
Those of us who are sensitives, if we're allowing ourselves to listen to that voice, and of course, we have to put up these sort of protective barriers so that we're not as accessible to that information, because otherwise the world will just break us. And so sometimes you're like, well, is that a thing or not? Because it's so hard to always be open. But yeah, I think people have those instincts too. I just think cats are more open to them because they don't watch the news. They don't have to be as protective of their psychic space as those of us who are sensitive and can't always be that open.
Right.
Yes, exactly. One of the things I really like about your books is the way that you pull in magic to the everyday world. And so I think it's really essential because our lives have changed so much just in the last, 10, 15 years. Just the way technology has changed the way we communicate.
2 years. The last 2 years have been kind of crazy.
Yeah, and so your books basically remind us that we can still have magic and do magic and for everyday things and in everyday life. So I love that because it's important to know it's not something you have to do just on a holiday, but you can have it every day. And even in your cat magic book, you have rituals and spells that you can do for all kinds of practical things. So it's great.
Well, most of us don't have 2 hours to set aside to do magic. It would be lovely if we did. And yes, every once in a while you could do a big ritual. But for most of us, if we can take 5 minutes and stand in front of our altar or light a candle or walk out and look at the full moon or talk to whichever deity we connect with, sometimes we have to make do with that 5 minutes. And so, yeah, a lot of my books are pretty much based on ways we can integrate our spiritual lives, our magical lives, with our everyday lives. I talk about things like mixing magic with your cooking. You're going to cook anyway, so put a little magic in it. You're going to take a shower anyway. At least I hope you are. So do a little magical work in your shower. There are ways to put magic into all the things you do without having to spend a lot of money or a lot of time or a lot of effort, because let's face it, most of us are tired. I'm tired. But that doesn't mean you can't tap into this, this energy of the universe, this extra little, whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it magic or whether you want to call it faith, it's out there. And it's all you have to do is reach your hand out. And so, I just try and find ways to help people connect with that maybe they wouldn't have thought of on their own.
So give us an example, if you would, Deborah, on some everyday magic we can do, whether it's related to cooking or keeping your property safe or whatever. Well, give us some ideas here.
Well, okay, here's an easy one. If you want to, most people get up in the morning and they take a shower. Some people shower at night. I make a magical spray. I take a few essential oils, which I bless and consecrate so they're more magical, but you don't even really have to do that. Mine has rosemary, which is really good for sharpening your brain and also for protection, and grapefruit, which helps energize and wake you up, and also protection. I'm big on protection, and also purification, and peppermint, which is another good sort of energizing thing. I put it in a spray bottle with some water, and right before I get into my shower, I spritz it into the shower, and then, and this is the important part, I consciously focus when I get into the shower on taking that energy into myself, because the spray by itself doesn't do anything. You have to have focus and intent. Those are the two big components of magical work. You have to be, you have to be aiming at something. That's your intent. You have to say, okay, I want, whatever this magical work I'm doing, whether it's something you add to your food or your shower or whatever, my intent is to start my day off better, to give myself more energy, to protect myself, to give myself some purification, and then you sort of focus your energy and your intent on that and take it inside. It's very simple. It's very easy. Anyone can do it, and you don't have to have that kind of, like, people think about, when you say focus, they think about meditation and they think, oh, I can't do that. No, it's a split second. It's like focusing when you're driving down the road. You get to work safely, you probably can focus. If you don't get to work safely, there's nothing I can do to help you.
Yeah. Well, what about in cooking? How can people bring magic in cooking?
I make magical hot chocolate.
Ooh.
It's actually magical mocha, because I got to put my coffee in there too. But I take milk, which is actually good for healing and strength, and I add chocolate, which is good for prosperity and love, and add a little sugar for sweetness in life, and a little cayenne pepper for energy and for protection, and a little cinnamon, which is also good for love and healing. And then I add my coffee, which, well, we know what coffee is good for. And I mix it all up in a little hot chocolate maker. But while I do it, I focus on my intent. And so all of those things make a kind, what I like to call magical alchemy. You're mixing a bunch of ingredients together to create this magical whole, and then I end up with this drink, which happens to be yummy, but also gives me, prosperity and love and, energy and all those things I want to start my day off. And think about starting your day off with that. Plus, it's got chocolate in it. So, yeah, it is so easy if you use herbs in your cooking, which I do. I have a big garden. But herbs are really easy to use in your cooking, and most culinary herbs also have magical properties, and many of them also have healing properties. But, for instance, we talked about having a rosemary essential oil in the spray for the shower. If you use rosemary when you're cooking, say, Italian food or something, rosemary is really good for mental acuity, for focusing your mind, for memory. Rosemary is for remembrance. If there's somebody that at Samhain, at Halloween, you want to do some work for somebody that you're remembering, rosemary is a great herb for that. You can put it in your food, or you can burn it in your bonfire, or you can burn incense. There are just so many ways to integrate it into your life. You just pick one.
That's great. I like that it's fast, it's easy, and you're basically just being conscious enough to pick an intent and then focus on that for even just like you said.
Exactly. If you choose to do this kind of work, you've already taken the first step. That's your conscious intent. Apparently I need more rosemary.
We all do. Absolutely. But these are fun things to do, and I think it's a wonderful exercise in focus. So when we're cooking or about to take a shower, just stuff we do every day anyways, we can add that intent to it, and that's a wonderful way to bring magic into our lives. So your books are tremendous. And, again, everybody can find Deborah's books on Amazon.com and also at DeborahBlakeAuthor.com. Because tonight
and the books are available, through Llewellyn, Barnes & Noble, really, any bookstore. And if you have an independent bookstore, I'm all about the independent bookstores. You can ask them to order it. They can order it. And you can ask your local library if they have it or if they want to order it, because, my books are available to libraries too, and then you don't even have to buy it. I know I'm probably not supposed to say that. Sorry, Llewellyn people, but libraries are a wonderful source for books and knowledge. Not everybody can afford to buy all the books they want. Even I can't buy all the books I want, although I have a lot of books. So yeah, they're pretty much available everywhere. You just have to go looking for them.
And also, I have to say, I was thinking I'm going to buy a bunch of your Cat Magic books because I think they'll make a great holiday present, especially for all my cat friends. I have a lot of friends who love cats and have them, and this would be a wonderful gift. So
it is a fun one, and what I like to do, because obviously I give them as gifts, is I get a couple of toys for the cats. Like a little catnip thing or some treats, something so that you're giving the gift to the cat person and also to their cat.
Oh, that's so lovely.
My cats made me say that. I'm just saying.
That's a great way to do it. Deborah, thank you so much. This has been such an enjoyable evening with you. And hearing about your cats and cat magic and your oracle decks and everything else that you're in love with and sharing with the rest of us. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's been a delight.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, we'll be back again next week with another exciting show. Until then, we'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural.